Have we started yet? Are we there we are. We're
There we
live.
are. I don't
Every
think I
time.
have ever gotten it on the right timing, ever. One of these days.
It is it's
Hello.
fine. It's fine. We just roll with it, right? That's just what we
Yes,
do.
yes. Happy Wednesday, everyone. And we are shredding, women that shred. You might recognize my guest, not just because, she's all over LinkedIn, but because I think, were you my second or third guest for Women That
One of
Shred?
the two. One of the
Yeah,
two.
I
I was
think
one
you
of your
might have
guinea
been my
pigs.
yeah, you were one of my first. But I have Leora back. I love that yesterday when you posted about the show that you were the queen of transitions. So it's like the queen of transitions and the queen of goofiness together.
I
So
love
there are
that.
two
I love that.
two queens here today.
Where's my crown? I can't find my
I know,
crown, but
I know. If we had like a snap cam filters, we could have had our
oh,
little
there you
crowns
go.
on there. Yeah, but
I do
how
have
are
a
you?
do have a cute little bouquet of flowers here, so I'll just hold that like I
Oh,
was
there we
just
go.
crowned the queen
Yes,
of
and then
transition.
just
So there you
waved
go.
at everybody.
I am doing good, all things considered. So, when you
Yes.
reached out to me yesterday and said, I need your help, I need you to be on my podcast
Yeah.
immediately, I thought, you know, we're all going through some kind of transition right now.
Yes.
And not just in the mortgage industry. As you mentioned, I'm really active on LinkedIn and I'm connected with a bunch of people, both in finance and out of finance. And I just keep seeing the open to work graphic on everyone's profile pictures.
No.
Like it's real. And I don't know where this great recession is because it looks like there's a lot of people looking for work right now. And it's not just transitioning from one job to another. There's transition in your life, there's transition
Mhm.
in your family, and just, how do you handle it with grace and with poise and with a little bit of humility? And so I was like, I think this would be a really great topic that would resonate with a lot of people, not just the folks that are within our industry.
No, I absolutely agree because, I'm in a life transition myself, just
You
moving
are.
I just moved back to San Diego after 23 years on the East Coast. And I have to tell you, hi, Suha, that
Hi,
even
Sue.
though I am a native San Diegan and I, usually visit twice a year, there's something different now that I'm living here and I'm noticing such a huge difference in just
Hmm.
the way people kind of just go through life. They're a little bit more laid back here, which I appreciate. But yeah, just I thought like, oh, it'll be super easy. I'll just like hop right in, which I have, but it's definitely still a transition after so long being away.
And
But
and I went through this exact same thing last year because I had moved back to my hometown of Grand Junction,
that's
Colorado
right.
last year after being gone for 18 years. So that is definitely a transition. And
Yeah.
I was expecting the same thing as you. I was like, I know all these people here. I went to high school here. I'm still connected with a lot of the people here,
Yeah.
but it's definitely different. And I had
Mhm.
to set aside my preconceived notions based on like when I grew up here.
Yeah.
Sidebar, I hated living here when I was growing up. I couldn't wait to get out. And now that I'm back, I'm like, I need to look at it from a different perspective and a different set of eyes. And in doing that, I was like, actually, this is kind of a cool town. But I'm
Yeah.
still having to adjust to not living in a big city because I'm a big city girl. I've lived in some huge cities like Chicago and DC.
That's
And
right.
to move back to this tiny little town with 80,000 people, it's been a bit of an adjustment. So,
That is
yeah.
tiny.
Hmm.
Are you already like running into people, like every day? It's like now you
Every day,
realize.
all the time. But it's also cool because so I live in this littler town called Palisade, which is right up
Okay.
against the mountains, and we have amazing peaches and amazing wine. And
Mm.
it's literally one of those things where I can walk down Main Street and be like, "Hi, Bob. Hey, Joe. Hi,
Yeah.
Sue." And they're like, "Hi, Leora." And it's interesting, but it's also like everybody's up in everybody else's business like all the time. It's like,
Yeah.
"Did you hear
That
about so and so?" And it's like, I don't care. Don't we have better
yeah.
things to talk about? But yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, kind of for me now, it's the opposite because I kind of was like a big fish in a little pond in Leesburg. I knew everybody, and my
Mhm.
family would joke around that I was the mayor. And now I come here, and San Diego is a huge city, and I'm enjoying being the little fish in a big pond right now. I do appreciate that, but it's
Mhm.
definitely different, and I love how. It's funny because Christina is on here and she's always here every week and she had sent me a little message on Instagram because she saw that the title was transitions are a good thing. And it was cute because she's like, so clearly some people think, don't necessarily view transitions as a good thing all the time. So for you, I mean, is it your perception of like, no, should be a good thing? Because you're going through a lot right now.
Yeah, yeah. That's a lot. So even when the transition is planned, you still have to go through what I think is a grieving process, because you
Mhm.
are having to let go of something you had in your life before, whether it was good or bad, it was a constant. And it was something that you could rely on. And you built your whole life around it, whether it was a job or a place that you were living, even a group of friends that you would hang out with. And when you leave that, even if it's something that you want and had planned for, you still have to go through the process of, okay, this isn't part of my life anymore, good or bad or whatever. How do I move forward? And how do I look back on this time as a good thing and not just think of the negative? So we've all been through transitions, where it was not intended. Maybe you got laid off, maybe you got let go, maybe you or breaking up with someone, going through a divorce, something like that, losing a best friend that you have had forever, and you have to go through that initial period of grieving. Um,
Mhm.
so you can't really appreciate the transition until you go through that process. At least
Yeah.
that's how I feel about it. Um, and it's that whole little part of letting go, right? What are the good things that I can take away from this experience? What are the things that I can learn from this experience? Where are areas where I can improve? And then take those nuggets onto the next opportunity or the next adventure in your life. So I am in the middle of my transition. And so I'm taking this opportunity to really look at what brings me joy. Is it
Mm.
really trying to climb the corporate ladder? Is it really trying to get into that C suite position? Or can I affect positive change in other ways? And I've learned over the last few years that I have a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit about me. And I kind of like to, march to the beat
Explore
of
it a
my own
little bit.
drummer. And I've been doing a lot of freelance writing. I do speak at conferences. And so I'm trying to figure out, is this something I could just do full time? So I'm not leaving anything off the table at this point. I'm entertaining all kinds of opportunities, and I'm actually really excited because I have so many different paths that I can take, and I have the time to make the right choice. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. Oh, I love how Sue has said, I get to reinvent myself. So yeah, this is kind of like the time where you get to do that. Like I think
I'm
that's
like,
super cool.
yeah, I'm the Madonna of the mortgage industry, and
Yes.
I'm even wearing the leopard
I
print.
was gonna
It's
say
like,
you even have like the vibe, the Madonna
yeah,
vibes.
yeah, it's like, how am I going to reinvent myself this time? I'm not going to go wacky like she has been on LinkedIn. Holy cow! But I
Yeah.
do like to have some fun. But
Yeah.
I'm really excited. But something that I've really noticed is a lot of people who are going through some kind of transition, they feel like they have to do it alone,
Mm,
and
yeah.
that if they ask for help, that they they think it'll be perceived that they are weak and that they
Yeah.
are not strong enough to make this transition or
Right.
make
Or
this
they can't
choice.
handle, tough times
Right.
yeah.
Right. Or the perception is, well, she had this amazing job or she had the world at her feet. How could she possibly need help or how could she possibly be going through a rough time? And so what I've learned is, and I know we've talked about this before and you've talked
Mhm.
about it with other guests is, having your tribe and
Yeah.
having that core group of people with you that can help you through those times, and like phoning a friend or just calling someone and saying, can you drink some wine with me and help walk this process through with me?
Yes.
So
Yeah. No, it
yeah.
is important. I also realize that too, just with my move. I think I was trying to be superwoman. I don't know why I thought in my head that after 23 years, moving across the country, I could pretty much do it on my own. I didn't have any movers. I didn't really, had to schedule everything myself. I didn't have a partner to kind of alleviate some of the duties. It was all on me.
Right.
And I really didn't ask for help. It wasn't until the last minute at the end that I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot do this alone. So I was like desperate and calling people. And luckily, I had people that literally at the last minute were like, I'll be right over. Or even
Hmm.
had a girlfriend that came over with her daughters just to say goodbye, and I had them moving one of my large paintings at the last minute, like over the balcony with my
I
neighbor.
remember I remember that. Didn't you have to, like, throw a couch over your balcony or
Yes, and
something
then I
like
had
that?
a
Yeah.
couch that, in order to for when I first moved in, the couch was lifted with like a tomcat because it was a construction site when I first moved in, and then suddenly there wasn't any construction 6 years later, and this couch was impossible to get out. So I had a friend who, poor guy, comes down from New York just to say like to come down to say goodbye to me, and I put him to work with a chainsaw, and he literally chainsawed the sectional apart. And then, I had to take it downstairs. My son tried to help me one day. He almost like destroyed the drywall. Oh my God. It was a nightmare. But at the same time, like it just realized even my son, it's funny how our kids, they're so insightful. And a lot of times they're the ones that have to kind of tell us like it is and teach us a little bit. And he goes, Mom, I don't
Yep.
understand why you couldn't have done this a long time ago. You should have prepared for, this and that. And you procrastinated, and now you're stressed out. You didn't need to be as stressed as you were if you would have asked for help, from the start. And I'm like, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Like,
I
I
love
should have
that.
asked for help. But, when your 21-year-old has to tell you that, you're like, oh gosh.
Yeah, so maybe I do need to take a step back and reassess. I mean, and you've talked to my kid Pepper a couple of times. You've had him
Yeah.
on your Rock Vision podcast.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
same thing. It's like your kids know more than you think, and
Yes.
they are aware of all the things that are going on in your life, and it's like pets. Like, they're attuned to when you're stressed out, when you're
Yeah.
struggling, when you're not feeling well, and to try to keep things from them, it's pointless, and then they're even more like frustrated as well. So
Yeah.
through this transition, through this process, I've been very open with Pepper, my son. He's worried that we're going to have to pack up and move again, and I said, no, I
Oh,
I will do everything that I can to make sure
yeah.
that we stay here, because he just started high school. And I
Amazing.
made a promise to him when we moved back that no matter where we were when he started high school, that's where we would stay.
Okay.
He, I like, I've owed, I, he, my family's had to move all across the country with me like every 2 to 3 years. And I'm like,
Yeah.
we're staying put. This is our hometown. We have support here. We have family here. And so, I'm just trying to help ease his stress as I'm easing my own stress. And that's really
Yeah.
hard to do sometimes.
Yeah,
So
and that's the thing with Pepper. I've had conversations with him and had his perspective on things, and you can tell you're trying to do your best, and I know he appreciates that. Even the fact that you're saying that I'm going to keep my promise and keep him here in high school. Um, that's really important too, and I love
I
that
am
you're.
not going to cry. I'm like getting all teared up just
Oh,
thinking about it, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters is
yeah,
is my family happy, and are we stable, and are we secure? And if that means I have to take a step back in my pursuits to find something that truly brings me joy and happiness and stability, then that's what I'm going to do. So if I have to step back, I've already started to pare back a lot of the things that I was doing in the business. I've stepped down from a few boards. I'm just trying to refocus on the things that are truly important to me. And that other stuff is just noise in my life right now.
yeah,
So that's another thing as part of the transition, is it gives you an opportunity to really sit down and take a look at your life and what you're doing in it. And does this thing still bring me joy? Does this activity still have a purpose for me? Is it still giving me something? Is it still allowing me to give something back?
hmm,
And you have to be able to take away those things that, even though it's something that you think might be important, in the grander scheme of things, it's probably not. And that you just need to focus on the core, those core things that I think of. What is it? What's that guy's name? The Pavlov's hierarchy, you know,
oh, yeah,
of
yeah,
of
yeah,
needs. Yeah. So just what are the absolute things that I need in the current moment to survive and to thrive, and the other stuff can just wait, or just not be a part of this next adventure in my life, at this next chapter of my life. So
yeah. I think what's great is that you and I will say we're middle-aged women, right? Well, what they say is middle age, but you're in your 40s, right?
I'm on the right side of 45. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, I am as well. I know now the fact that I'm closer to 50 than 40 is
I
really kind of
know.
depressing,
I
but
know.
I will say what isn't depressing, and I think what is great is that we are at an age where, you're reinventing yourself. I'm starting a whole new chapter in my life. And I feel like it's so important for us to share that, because I want younger women. to also kind of see that our lifespan doesn't, our shelf life doesn't end at, 30 or 40, that
Right.
we can continue to grow and continue to transition and learn and rediscover ourselves. And I love that. I feel like a lot of us are going through that at the same time. And so it is that support. That's why, you're the first person I thought of when I had someone had to, reschedule. I was like, you know what? I'm going to have my girl Leora, because right now she needs our support. She needs, to be on the show to kind of share her story, share, maybe like you said, ask for help. Like, hey, you're in a position here where you want to stay where you're at, but obviously the reality is we do need to pay our bills and our mortgage, and we do,
Yep.
need to support our families. So it's like, okay, it might not necessarily be in this industry, but that's the thing, is many people are watching this. Christina, she's not in the industry at all. She's an educator. And, Suha, she knows a ton of people. And I know that she wanted to jump on and support as well, but,
Mhm.
she had a last minute call. But I think that's what's so wonderful about this, is that there should be no shame in any of this
Right. Yeah.
whatsoever. Zero.
And I've been known to wear my heart on my sleeve. I've been on
Yes,
podcasts where I'm like bawling my eyes out because
me too.
this is there may have been wine, may have not been, who knows? But that's me. I'm not going to change who I am. I'm an emotional person.
Yeah,
I am an empathetic person. I lead with love. I Everything I do is from a place of authenticity, and sometimes I get in my feels. And it's hard to turn that off. And why should I have to? If it gives other people hope, like,
yeah,
oh, she's in this place in the industry and she's well known and she's respected, but she's still just a human being going through the same difficult times that other people are going through. And if she can get through it, then I can too. And if I'm a
exactly.
mess along the way, that's just part of the process, right? It's part of the journey. So
Yeah, I've learned it's okay to be messy. I joke around how where I'm just kind of like, sometimes I'm a little bit of a train wreck, but an
hot mess.
organized train wreck. Yeah, an
Yeah, there's
organized hot mess. Like, I feel like a hot mess train wreck, but at the same time, it's like very organized.
mhm. Organized chaos. Like,
Yeah,
where everything is. Nobody else does, but you do, and that's all that matters. So
yeah. Like, I wonder what people would think of me if they really could like get into my brain. I'm sure all of us think of that too, right? We're always like, gosh, if only people could actually hear what's going on in our head right now.
right, maybe that would clear up a lot of misunderstandings, though, too. Do you want me to tell you how I really feel
Really
about
feel? Yeah.
you? No, yeah. You probably don't. Trust me on that one, because I may seem all happy and bubbly, but if you get on the wrong side, it's a whole different Leora. So
Yeah. Well, that's I know I have I think so with the Myers-Briggs, I'm technically an ENFJ. And when I Googled kind of like, the personality trait, there was a meme that had a Hulk or Bruce Banner. So Bruce before Hulk, and it said, "Don't mistake my kindness for weakness." And that's kind of the same
love
thing I
that.
tell people, like, I'm very nice and very kind, all of those things, but at some point if you cross me, I will turn into She-Hulk.
Yeah, yeah, you're gonna be like, who is this person, and can you bring Leora?
Yeah, right. Where is she? Please bring her back. Yeah, I
Yes,
mean, but
yeah.
that's, and that's the thing, is I believe you're going to even learn so much more about yourself, even in this transition and during all of this. And like you said, you just realize, that you have that entrepreneurial spirit, which I never believed I had it in me either. It wasn't until just recently that I'm like, no, I am kind of an entrepreneur as well. And
Hmm.
I think, yeah, maybe this is a gift for you to kind of explore that, and you just never know what might come of it. And you might look back at, this phase, or this day, and be like, isn't that funny that we were talking about this, and look at where I am now? Like, I think those are like the really like magical moments,
Hmm.
like you just never
Yeah.
know.
So definitely when you're going through that transition, hold on to those moments where you're like, I can distinctly remember, like, over the last 2 weeks, like that moment where I'm like, okay, we're done feeling sorry for ourselves. We're done
Yeah,
with the pity party. Get off your ass and let's go. So, and that moment is like, hey, there's pivot, right? You got to pivot, and okay, and now it's
yeah,
time to, dust it off and let's get going. And that's when I was like, okay, who in my network can I reach out to? And even if
Yeah.
it's people who can't help me find a job, they can connect me with other people who can.
Yeah.
And just reaching out to that few group of people, my core tribe, I've got a lot of opportunities that are in the
Oh,
works right now that I'm really excited about. I don't want to jinx it by saying anything, but
yeah.
I've got a lot of great things going on, and they're completely different than anything I've ever done. Still in the mortgage space because I don't know,
Okay.
you just can't get me out of it. I love it too much.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Um,
you've been in it for so long and you know what you're
I'm
doing.
I'm a lifer in some capacity,
Yeah.
even if in 10 years it means I'm running my own business, which is definitely something I've considered.
Oh,
But just going through this process, I'm like, okay, I don't have to take the first thing that comes along, and that it's a really good feeling. It's a really good feeling. But to get there, I had to be open to some really crazy ideas and
yeah.
just really getting out of my comfort zone. And because a lot of those skills that you have in the business can be transferable to
Oh,
anything,
yeah.
project management skills, relationship building, mentorship. That translates to any industry, not just mortgage. So what can I do with the skills that I have, and actually do something that brings me joy in addition to helping other people.
Yeah, and I think that's a good lesson just for everyone in general, especially in this industry that are, unfortunately maybe not, in a position right now where they have a job and they are looking that, yeah, maybe sometimes it's transitioning within the industry, but with the, different skill set because
Hmm.
we all have a huge skill set. I think a lot of us who think, oh, I'm only good at this and this. I'm like, no, 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 really think about it. And you be surprised at how many, skills you do have. And so it's just kind of looking at those skills and then being open to using them and utilizing them in maybe a different capacity. So I'm like super excited to
Yeah,
try.
but and a few other things I've learned along the way is, just some basic stuff. Make sure your resume is up to date. Make sure that based on whatever job you're looking for, that your resume reflects that.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of doors that are usually locked when it comes to looking for a new job, especially with a lot of these larger companies that use applicant tracking systems. They look for keywords and resumes. So, if you find a job that you really want, at least get to that interview stage where you're having a conversation with a live human being, my recommendation is to do a lot of research on the company, really truly understand the job description, and then update your resume to reflect that so you can get past that firewall of keywords and at least get to someone who will look at the resume and go, yep, they've got that, they've got that, they've got
Yeah,
that, and we want to
yeah.
move forward. Um, and just make sure that you're doing that anytime you have a job change. I have multiple resumes, and I have one for secondary marketing, I have one for credit union operations, I have one for my freelance writing work that I do. And just based on whatever job I'm looking for, that's the resume that I give.
Wow. See, that's the thing is like for me, I'd be a nervous wreck because I have been very blessed to where the jobs that I have had in this industry have had, it's with who I know in the network. And so I think that's why it's also really important to be able to have a good network that you can reach out to and say, hey,
Hmm.
or what I have done too is that, especially with LinkedIn, you go to a certain company and you can see the people that work there and you'd be surprised that you might already be connected with them on LinkedIn or you might have seen
Yep.
that there was like maybe some kind of interaction between the two of you. Take advantage of that, maybe reach out to that person because that's kind of my strength. I've mentioned that if I showed someone my resume, they'd be like, went, went, went. Like I wouldn't even get like a second look.
Yep.
But I know for a fact that if you get me in front of that person, then it's a completely different story. So it's
It's
getting in
like a
front of
done
that
deal
person.
almost. It's like I
Yeah,
know
like
I'm the right person for
yeah,
this job. You just got to get past my 5-page resume. I'm
right.
just
That
kidding. No.
stinks. That
Yeah.
clearly does not like even remotely sound like I am a very good candidate for this position.
Yep.
I mean, I will admit to that. Like my one of my weaknesses is writing. Like I just as a content creator, I do struggle a little bit with the copyright because
Hmm.
sometimes I'm like, I don't sound as, sophisticated as I should.
So yeah, you get a little too wordy, you get a little too in
Yeah.
the weeds with it. It's like, and no one's going to get past page one, and it's really hard. Like, how do you? how do you put together the most impactful resume that still gets all of those key points about who you are without it being like a novel? And so there, I mean, there's tons of resume writers on LinkedIn. If you just Google resume writers, you'll find them all over the place.
Get a
I was
contact
lucky.
of yours that might, like that might be willing just to kind of help you. You can barter. That's the thing too. I'm really good with
Yep.
bartering.
Yep. And that, yeah, and that's why, you have your tribe, you have your people, and they'll be like, I know who can help you. Like I reached out to, I'm going to give her right now. I love Ramos. She reached out to
Yeah,
me and she's like, I have a good friend who writes resumes and he's going to do me a favor. So he did
perfect.
a refresh on my resume for free and he was awesome. His name is Alan. If anyone needs help, I can give you his contact
Oh,
information. But
yeah, that's good to know.
and that's what it's about. It's like, okay, she has helped me. Now, how can I help pay it forward to someone else? And
Yeah.
because I know that that'll come back to me later on down the road in a good way.
Yeah, and that's the thing too is it's funny you mentioned Delilah because when you were talking about your entrepreneurial spirit and going out on your own maybe or whatever, like Delilah herself, she was in a transition as well and was
Yep.
open to work and decided to just do her own thing and here she's helping others look for positions as well and she's got her Taco Tuesday, so it's great. But I love that Pam said she had never gotten past that firewall without a personal contact with someone at the company. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's that definitely helps. So if you
It,
can
it
get someone, yeah,
who definitely helps, and I'm so glad you were able to join us, Pam. And I'm so excited for the next chapter in your life, and I know that
I might have to
down the
get
road
Pam on here then to talk about her next
I think
chapter.
that's a great idea. Maybe in a couple, I don't, maybe next month, maybe October. So,
Yeah. Okay.
but Pam and I have stayed in contact for the last year and a half because we've also, her and I have gone through some similar things in our personal lives, losing a family member. We both, have Colorado ties here. And so we've stayed in contact to try to just help each other and support each other. But I don't believe we've ever met, or if we have, it was like literally in passing. So, and
Well,
like
you and I have never met, so
you and I have never met, and that's why,
so
like,
it doesn't really matter at this point.
you're my virtual bestie, and so until we meet in person, you will just remain my virtual bestie.
I
So
know that's what's so awesome though is that like people would think most likely that you and I have met and we off and so it just goes to show you that you can still develop very authentic friendships online.
absolutely. And what's great is like you've met my kid
Yeah,
twice, and you guys have a really great relationship. And I just think that's amazing. And yeah, don't let the fact that we're talking via computer to stop us from creating those connections, because we have our
absolutely.
core group of gals, and
Yeah,
we've stayed by each other for the last 3-4 years, and I don't know where I would be without my group, our group.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm very appreciative of that, and I know that we'll continue to be there for each other no matter what.
Yeah, and it shouldn't matter either, like if you left the industry, because I left the industry and you, all of you, still kept me in that group. And I appreciated that because I didn't think I was going to come back, but I did come back. And thank goodness, I kept that, relationship with all of you and kept that core group because it's definitely helped being back in the industry. But I think a lot of
Hmm.
times too is when we leave a certain company or industry, a lot of people tend to kind of move on, and
Yeah.
obviously you need to move on from toxicity. But I think
Yep.
that the relationships, maintaining them, are so important. That's why for me coming back to San Diego, it's been a good transition for me because I kept all my relationships with all my girlfriends and people that I've grown up with in this area. So they're introducing me to people, they're helping me acclimate, which is great. But I think that the maintaining relationships part piece though can be very time consuming
It can be.
and
And
it's
yeah,
difficult.
we've tried to we've tried to set up a happy hour for the last 2 months, and it keeps getting rescheduled. So and unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to make the one in September. I know I
Oh
have a
my gosh.
scheduling
Well, it's funny
conflict.
because
So
yeah, because Suha yesterday when she was texting me about jumping on here, she's like, "Oh, we should do an episode with like our group." I'm like, uh, we can't even get
How?
us to like have a happy hour. How are we
Where
gonna? How
all
am I
we're
gonna
doing is
coordinate
drinking
a
wine and talking.
Wednesday? A Wednesday for us to get on you know, and she goes, I know it's like herding cats. And I was like sending gifts of like, you know, being cats being herded. And
That's too funny. Well, who
I
knows?
know,
Maybe we can all be at a conference together. I know a lot of us are trying to figure out if we can get to MBA annual.
I
So
know.
I'm going to put this out to anybody. There's some of us who whose companies aren't sending us to annual. A lot of us have gone to Empower every single year. This would be the first year I don't go. So I'm trying to figure out a way. So if anybody wants to room with me, if we all want to go in on an Airbnb, let's see if we can figure this
Yeah.
out. Let's get a contingent, kick-ass ladies together and let's storm Empower, and then maybe we can have a quick little session um, at Empower. I don't know,
Yeah, no. I'm trying to get there because I think Dal in the background, she might be able to comment, but I think Josh is trying to be at MBA, and I thought like, how cool would it be to do Women That Tread Live and to kind of
Oh,
be
yes,
there among everybody. So I'm trying to figure it out myself. But yeah, like you said, if anybody else is on here, maybe we can all just get an Airbnb, and that would be super fun.
wouldn't it?
Yeah,
We,
yes.
it
Okay,
would be
Dal,
like
she'll,
way too
okay,
much
we'll
fun.
know more soon. Okay, perfect. All
Okay,
right.
cool.
Yeah, like we'll all figure it out. Yeah.
Oh, yay, I'm so
We'll
excited.
get you
It's
there,
it's
Leora. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
we'll
make it
figure it out.
happen.
I love it. See, that's why I
Yeah,
love this industry. Even when it knocks me down,
yeah,
there are people who will help get me back up, and I will do the same for anybody else. So I love
yeah.
it. I love
Yeah,
it.
we'll make it happen, and it'll be
Yep,
super fitting that we'll all be at Empower together.
that's
Yes.
right.
Well, that is the perfect ending. Just hear all us women supporting each other and empowering one another. And Leora, as always, I always appreciate your transparency and your just willingness to just be so open
Yeah,
about everything, because I do know that our conversation here is going to help a lot of other women and even men listening, and
yeah,
hopefully they realize that they're not the only ones that go through transitions, good
not
or
at
bad.
all.
Yeah.
Right.
So please reach out to Leora. I know
Yep.
Dal put your handles on there, but thank you again. I really
Yes, of
appreciate it, and
course.
I always appreciate all the people that come on and engage and say hello. And
Yes.
I will
It's all for
see
you.
all of
It's all for you guys.
no, seriously. All right. Well, I will see all of you next Wednesday, and yeah, let's make this the rest of the week an awesome rest of the week, and love you all.
And have a great Labor Day weekend.